Hi guys, it's Jess from Honest Fiction, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing my September TBR. Alright guys, I cannot believe I am recording my September TBR. I feel like this summer went by way too quickly. But yeah, I have a decent amount of books on this list. There is a lot more fantasy and fantasy romance. I feel like last month I really didn't read any. I just had a lot of other book commitments. So we're gonna change that for September. There's a decent amount of fantasy, but I'm very excited to talk about these books with you guys. Now, if you're unfamiliar with my channel, I post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. You can also hit the notification bell to be notified whenever I post new bookish content. You can also check out my Instagram and Goodreads, both linked down below. With all that out of the way, let's talk about all the books I want to read in September. So starting off with YA Fantasy, first up we have Foxglove by Adalyn Grace. So this is the sequel to Belladonna, which came out last year, and that was a surprise 5-star read for me. I absolutely loved it. So I can't really get into the plot of this book because it'll give away a huge spoiler, but if you're unfamiliar with the plot of Belladonna, we are following Signa, and at the beginning of our story, she is an infant and she goes to a party with her mother, and everyone at that party ends up passing away, including Signa. So when Death shows up in corporeal form and starts taking the souls into the afterlife, he goes to take Signa's soul and realizes he can't actually bring her into the afterlife. So then Signa, we find out, is actually not able to die, and Death kind of just stalks her and is like really interested in her for the rest of the book. And the story goes from there. So I, once again, absolutely love Belladonna. I just thought the writing was very atmospheric. And also it had these like creepy horror elements. It was just like the perfect YA book for fall. So I am so excited to pick up Foxglove. And next up in YA Fantasy, I'll be rereading Once Upon a Broken Heart and the Ballad of Never After in preparation for A Curse of True Love, which is releasing at the end of October, and I am so excited. So if you're unfamiliar with the plot of Once Upon a Broken Heart, we are following Evangeline Fox, and she lives in this very whimsical world, and unfortunately, she is in love with her best friend. However, her best friend is about to marry her stepsister. So Evangeline is just so distraught by this, so she runs to Jax, the Prince of Hearts, and decides to make a deal with him. Now, it is known in this world you do not make deals with the Prince of Hearts or any of the Fates in general because it always ends badly, but Evangeline, being so desperate, does not care, makes a deal with Jax, and Jax proposes that if Evangeline will kiss 3 people of his choosing, he will stop the wedding. And the story goes from there, and it is so good. Their relationship, just slow burn perfection. If you're a fan of A Court of Thorns and Roses, I actually think you'll really enjoy Once Upon a Broken Heart. Now, this is by the same author that wrote the Caraval series, and you don't necessarily have to read the Caraval series before this series. However, there are some characters that do pop up. But overall, I love this series so much, and I'm so excited to jump back into this world. And moving into fantasy romance, first up we have A Fall of Ruin and Wrath, which is the first book in a new series by Jennifer L. Armentrout. So this is the same author that wrote From Blood and Ash, as well as the prequel series and a bunch of other romance series, and I am addicted to this woman's characters and also her romances in general. I just think she does such a good job, so I'm so excited for this book to come out. I don't know very much about it. I believe it's following a girl that lives in like a very like dangerous type of world, and she has super intuition, which has helped her survive as long as she has. Now, one day she is off venturing and she sees this prince in trouble and she ends up saving him, and they develop this bond, but her intuition is telling her that this prince is gonna be her downfall. So she then has to decide, does she trust her heart or does she trust her superpower? And it goes from there. So I am so excited. I will definitely be reading this as soon as it releases. I'm pretty sure on September 11th or September 12th. And next up, we have To Hunt a Demon King. So this is described as a witchy Red Riding Hood reimagining. We are following this girl who wants to be taken seriously as a witch by her coven. However, her mother has forbid her from attending coven meetings until her 25th birthday, when she does end up going, and something goes awry. She ends up running for her life, and her mother tells her to find this demon king and he will protect her, and the story goes from there. So I believe this is the first in a 3-book series. I know at least this first book is available via audio, and I'm very excited to jump into it. And next up, I plan on reading Her Soul for Revenge, which is part of the Souls trilogy by Harley LaRoux. So the first book was Her Soul to Take, and I read that almost exactly a year ago, and I loved it. It was so much creepier than I was expecting. So her soul for revenge is following a girl that we actually met in this first book, and this cult kidnapped her and tried to sacrifice her to this Cthulhu-type monster. So I'm pretty sure this girl, if I'm remembering correctly, made a deal with a demon and offered up her soul if the demon would help her get revenge on that cult. So I'm so excited for this one. I feel like it's gonna be like the perfect Halloween book. So I will definitely be reading that very, very shortly. And moving into contemporary romance, first up, we have Losers Part 2. So I read The Dare and Losers Part 1 in June, and I loved both books. So I am so excited to pick up Losers Part 2. So if you're unfamiliar with what Losers is about, it is a dark, wide shoes romance, and we are following Jess. And in Losers Part 1, it starts off in high school, and she was kind of like the popular girl, and all of her friends really picked on the losers of the school. So one night at a Halloween party, Jess ends up sleeping with all of the losers, and then she ends up going off to college. So when she comes back from college is pretty much where the first book like starts off, and she ends up getting in some trouble with her like frenemies, and her car gets damaged. So the losers offer to fix Jess's car. In exchange, she's gonna have to do whatever they say in the bedroom, and the story goes from there. And the way the first book ended, I am so excited to see what is gonna happen, and oh my gosh. So anyway, this book was so kindly gifted to me by Katie from the channel Welcome to My Escape, so I will leave her channel link down in the description below. But thank you again so much, Katie. I cannot wait to see what happens with the losers and Jess, and definitely gonna be read soon. And last up, I plan on picking up Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. So I'm not gonna lie, I am very intimidated by the length of this book. So it is super chunky, and it's actually so long that the audiobooks have been split up into parts. But I've heard so many people absolutely love this series and rave about this series. So I wanna see what all of the hype is about. I don't know very much about this. I just know we're following these people that all go to the same high school, and I think they all play rugby, maybe, or another sport. But apparently these books are like very, very emotional, and hopefully I enjoy them. I typically don't love high school romances. Like, I prefer them to be set in college, but I think it's gonna be okay. So I'm very excited to pick this up in September. All right, guys, those are some of the books I plan on reading in September. Please let me know down in the comments below if you have read any of the books I mentioned. And I said this already, I post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday, and if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. I will see you all next week. Bye!